Thank you for listening to the Music Production Podcast, the show where we talk about all things about making music, from the gear, the techniques, the philosophy. I'm your host, Brian Funk. I'm a musician, producer, Ableton certified trainer. I work for Berklee Online. I have a website, brianfunk.com. And today I want to talk a little bit about gratitude. Today happens to be Thanksgiving. I'm up early in the morning on Thanksgiving here in the United States and given this some thought, something I've been thinking about a bit lately. I'm going to be drawing some inspiration from a couple places, some things I've been reading and listening to. All year long, I've been reading The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday, which is a book with a little bit of wisdom each day from the Stoics. I'm also just finishing Paradox of Choice by Barry Schwartz, which is an excellent book, and been using the Waking Up app for meditation by Sam Harris. And there's been some things that I think we can pull out of all of those that have to do with gratitude. But I want to start with a little story of what I was just doing not very long ago, just the other day. I was on the floor on my back underneath my studio desk, futzing around with the wires that are connected to my compressor and my reverb. So I've got an Alesis 3630 compressor and also an Alesis Microverb 3. So, nothing is especially fancy really, but I wanted to run sounds through those. And I was getting a buzz. And the buzz was just unacceptable. Kind of that electrical 60 hertz type buzz. So I'm playing around. I switched out my wires from unbalanced to balanced cables. Moved around the electric, really never solved the problem. And I found myself getting really frustrated and annoyed and angry, like really feeling that. And it was at that time when one of my dogs came down and started I'm on the floor on my back. It looks like playtime to her. So she starts kind of getting in my face a little bit. And I'm like, no, not now, Vera, not now. And then she starts licking and getting more and more into it. And it was kind of at that moment that I realized, this is more important. This little interaction with my dog is special. And this annoying buzz with the compressor and the reverb really isn't. And I started to think that the problems we face when we make music are so frivolous. Just the act of making music, if you really think about it, it's such a luxury that we have. If you're able to make music, and I'm going to make some assumptions about anyone listening to this show right now. If you're listening to me talk about this stuff, a lot of things in your life have gone well. You're not starving to death. You're not dying of some terrible illness. You're not suffering and looking for shelter. You're not being hunted down by some rabid animal. We live in a really awesome time. We have shelter. We have electricity to supply all of our studio gear. We have so many things that have gone right for us to get to this point. And they're so easily missed. And the second they go away, the second you lose your health, the second you lose your shelter, your electric, whatever it is, you really notice it and feel it. Yet we take these things for granted all the time. We're so lucky to have these problems of struggling through making music. The idea of art in general is really a luxury that we only get once so many basic needs have been fulfilled first. And I think that's really easy to forget until you lose some of those basic needs. I'm happy that I kind of realized that as I was kind of on the floor. Thankfully, my dog came along and sort of reminded me that this is not something to really lose my cool about, even though it felt extremely frustrating. So it's kind of the direction I want to go and just play around with this idea and think about, how lucky we are, how grateful I am, and how this whole concept might help us make better music. So one of the things, I'm kind of pulling this from the Waking Up app. There was a meditation on the last time. And the idea was like that everything in your life you do will one day be done for the last time. And most of the time, you don't even notice it. There's a kind of funny meme going around on the internet too with the kids from the movie The Sandlot, which if you haven't seen The Sandlot, it's a fun movie about a bunch of children that are playing baseball in the summer and they have this crazy adventure. And, many people can probably relate to having those experiences with their friends, hanging out, running around the neighborhood. But what the meme said was like, one day you and your friends got together for the last time and played and hung out. And you probably didn't realize that it was the last time and you don't remember it. It was just another day. And so many things in life are like that, that you may very well have done some of the things you love to do for the last time. And you just never know. And you probably don't know. There are certain things that you know are for the last time, but not everything. And if me making music, the last time I ever did that was the other day when I'm laying on my back, struggling with electrical buzzes. I mean, man, what a waste, What a sad way to send off something in my life that I love so much. Maybe it's something we can kind of pay attention to when we find ourselves getting down these little rabbit holes of struggle or dealing with minor problems that maybe aren't so big in the grand scheme, to understand that it could be the last chance you get to do this. So many things are over, in looking into the last year or so. Things have changed quite a lot in life for me. Lost people that I care about, things that seem definite are in question. And I didn't realize those things had already happened for the last time. And it's too bad I didn't have a chance to embrace that, but that's life. You don't get a chance to know when something's happening for the last time. It's just kind of like, surprise, that's over now. So I think it was an interesting meditation anyway out of that app, which I think if you're going to want to hear it, you do have to subscribe to it, but it's worth like the $7 or $8, even if you cancel that month, just to hear that one. Some of those lessons are really powerful, but maybe it can be something helpful to think about the last time you ever do something and treat things as maybe the last time you'll have it. And it's a really nice way to kind of zero yourself into this feeling of appreciation and gratitude and not taking things for granted. There are a lot of studies showing that being thankful and feeling gratitude really gets in the way of other more negative emotions. For instance, they say it's very hard to be angry and thankful at the same time. And I've found, after hearing that, I can sometimes, if I'm lucky, pull myself out of that downward spiral of anger by trying to feel a little gratitude. The only problem is when you start getting angry, you kind of like want to be angry. You kind of enjoy it. You feel justified, and it makes you feel more right if you allow the anger to take over you. So it's not always as easy as said. But another thing I wanted to get into was some stuff I learned from reading The Paradox of Choice by Barry Schwartz. I'm going to put up a TED Talk in the show notes that he did a little while back that kind of hits on some of the main ideas of the book, but I highly recommend the book because it really goes into detail and gets into the psychology of what makes us happy, what makes us feel satisfied, and what gets in the way of that. And I think this really applies to making music as well as a million other things. But again, this is the Music Production Podcast, so we'll look at it through that lens. And what the main kind of theme of the book is that the more choices we get, the less satisfaction we feel in our choices that we make. Now, if you think about it, objectively as an outside onlooker, if you have more options, you can make a better decision and come away with a better product or answer. If if you're buying toothpaste, let's say, if you have a lot of choices, you can pick out the best toothpaste for you. You can get the taste you want. You can get the whitening you need or the cavity protection or whatever it is. That's from the objective standpoint. However, from the subjective standpoint, we tend to walk away from these choices feeling less satisfied, even though we got the better thing. So you'll be, walking out of the store with the best possible toothpaste for you, but you'll be wondering if the other choices would have been a little better, if you would have been more satisfied. And when you use your toothpaste, you will think about that and not have the same level of satisfaction as if maybe there was just one toothpaste and you just got your toothpaste and now you're done and you're moving on. I think about this a lot when we look at all of the options we have for making music. If you have 9,000 kick drum samples, you're going to spend a lot of time going through them. And when you finally pick one, you're going to always have it in the back of your head that maybe there's a better one out there. And you won't just feel satisfied for it. If you instead had one or two to choose from, it's a much easier choice and you can just walk away from it and not really look back and feel bad or unsure of your decision. It's a huge problem in every step of the way with our music production because we can choose any sound we want. We can switch out sounds. We can adjust timing. We can add effects. We can keep tweaking. We can have infinite tracks. We can undo things. We can just keep questioning our decisions, and we ultimately get stuck a lot, I think, for that reason, for this idea that the more choices you have, the less satisfaction you have. Oddly, I find myself in one area of my life that I can think of where I do a practice that kind of helps me stay satisfied. And maybe this can apply to making music. When I go out to eat, my method of ordering is almost always to just pick the first thing that catches my eye. I'll look at the menu, and if I see something that catches my eye, I just order that. I don't keep looking. The choice is just overwhelming, and you start playing out the decision in your head. Oh, what will it be like if I have that? Oh, that'd be good, and that might pair well with this drink I'm going to have or this dessert I want later. But oh, there's this other dessert, and I can change. Now I have to change my meal. You can really put yourself in a deadlock of paralysis by too many choices. So I don't know why, but I just have picked that aspect of my life. And that's what I do. If I go out for Italian, I almost always order spaghetti and meatballs because I love spaghetti and meatballs. And I'm usually pretty satisfied. So I don't even really think twice. I just kind of know what I'm getting. I know there's a lot of other cool things to get, and I've had many of them. But it just makes that experience simple. I don't worry about it. Another funny way I do this, I didn't know I was going to talk about my socks, but I do this with my socks. I bought 2 packages of of a certain style of sock that I liked, and I threw out all my other socks. And now I only have this one type of sock. I got a couple dress socks for when I need them, but my everyday socks are just this one pair of socks. And I don't have to think about my socks. I just throw them all in the drawer. I don't even roll them up together because they're all the same. So it doesn't matter. I just pick 2 and I've got a pair. And it's been a surprisingly interesting sense of relief when I do laundry. I don't have to find the pairs of socks. And then when I go to put them on, I just grab 2 and that's it. There's no thought that goes into it. And when they start to get old, I just throw them all out and spend another $10 and have all new socks instead of trying to keep them holding on. This one's got a little hole, so maybe it's got a few more wears. I just get rid of them. And for $10, I eliminate a source of small, but still annoying stress of sock wearing. So maybe we can do this with our music production. We can try to eliminate some of the choices, not get as much stuff maybe in the first place, I guess would be smart, so we don't have the choices. But when we make choices, stick with them, commit to them. The more unreversible your choices are, the more happy you will be with them. Because when it's irreversible, which is the right word, irreversible, when your choices are irreversible, you don't think about looking back to see if you can maybe have done better. You don't consider backtracking and replacing something. So, for instance, if say you record a MIDI part and you've got a little chord progression going through, say, like an electric keyboard sound, and you commit that to audio, now you can't go back to the MIDI and switch out a new sound. So by doing that, you're stuck with that electric piano sound, for better or for worse. And what that also does, though, is inform the next decision you have to make, because now you can choose an instrument that goes with the electric piano sound. You're not going to then, on your next sound, your next instrument that you want to add to your track, you're not going to look for the coolest sound and then realize it doesn't fit with the electric piano sound and go back and now change the electric piano sound. And then you change your electric piano sound and you realize that, ooh, this new sound might sound good with this other new sound I want to use, but now my drums sound weird with it. Now I got to go back to my drums. And you find yourself in these like loops and circles of just changing things out. Whereas if your drums were committed to audio, irreversible, your electric piano is irreversibly committed, now the next decision is made smaller. There's fewer sounds you can use because fewer sounds fit with an electric piano than the option of every possible sound. This, of course, can bite you in the butt. Sure, you might make a mistake. But I think that the odds of that happening, which are probably significant, are worth the risk of moving forward and just staying in a forward momentum in your music making. This is one of the places where we get stuck, where we get caught in like the same spot and we can't finish songs, is because we can't commit to what we have already. But once we have it down and we commit it to audio, say, or whatever, however you want to commit it, then you're just going to move forward. You're stuck with what you have. You have no other choice. So you got to make do with what you've got. Paradox of Choice is an awesome book. Definitely worth reading. A couple other things I just want to throw out there. One thing that he also brings up in the book is about how we adapt to things. And I think this applies with gear. I'll give you an example in a second. When we get something new, when we have something new and it's novel, it's exciting, it's fun. Every time you look at it, oh, cool, oh, this is a fun new place to eat, say. And it's like a little fun new luxury, but over time we adapt to it. Part of our survival is, I guess, based on our ability to adapt, right? We wouldn't have evolved and been a successful species if we couldn't adapt. But it kind of hurts us in these situations where the things that we appreciate and that are new to us become just common. I'm not going to say old, but they become ordinary, right? We get used to them. And that's why we take things for granted, is because, that's just what it is now. The example I'll give you is, if you've been paying attention to synthesizer news that's been going on, is Behringer just put out word of this new Poly D. So Behringer is on the Clone Wars. They are reproducing all kinds of synths. They got a couple cool original things too, like Neutron, I really like a lot. But anyway, one of the first things they did was their Model D. And I have it. I admit it. I have it. Politics aside, of however you feel, I'm probably never going to buy a real Model D. It's just out of my price range. And I just don't know if I can justify that kind of money, even though it's super cool. And I kind of hope I never do, to be honest, because we're just as I'm talking about all this like paradox of choice stuff, I don't need it, And on top of that, I will say that the Behringer Model D is really awesome. It sounds great. I love it. I really do. I have a lot of fun with it. It sounds incredible, and there, if you watch online, there's so many side-by-side comparisons where the differences are subtle, sure, but it's hard to tell the difference between it and the real thing. A real Model D is a luxury. It's a beautiful piece of furniture, even just to have in a room. It's lovely. It's a great instrument. Um, but the Model D is a pretty good percentage of that, that overall experience, in my opinion. Don't change my mind because I don't want to long for a Model D in real life. But anyway, so this new Behringer Poly D gets announced, and it looks really cool. It looks like a Model D. It's like bigger. It's paraphonic technically. A lot of uproar in the comment section about it being called polyphonic. Technically, it's paraphonic. It can play more than one note at the same time, but it all runs through the same filter and it all runs through the same envelope. So anyway, technicalities aside, it still looks pretty awesome. And part of me was actually thinking like, well, so what if it's paraphonic? It'll cause me to play different. It'll be a cool limitation and happy accidents will happen and probably unhappy ones too. But whatever, it'll just be a different style of instrument and whatever. I came down to my studio that day and I looked at my little Model D from Behringer, and I had this like feeling of like, maybe I'll get rid of that and maybe I'll sell it and maybe I'll invest in the big one. And then I caught myself with this idea of maybe irreversible changes and feeling less satisfied with the things I have. And I'm thankful that I was able to catch myself. Thanks to finishing The Paradox of Choice, I was able to realize what I was doing. I was going down this little psychological trap of feeling less satisfaction for the things that I already have and that I already love and that I already enjoy. And I think I got over that feeling where I'm pretty satisfied with the Model D and I actually like how small it is and it doesn't take up a lot of space and that it doesn't have a keyboard, even though part of the reason I like the new thing they announced was that it has a keyboard and it is bigger and it's got more space and bigger knobs that are probably fun to turn. But, whatever is sort of the thing. And it kind of, this realization made me a little bit happier about the Model D, which is sort of now just become another piece in the studio that doesn't really like make me go, ooh, cool, new toy. It's kind of made me feel a little better about it because I'm realizing that I don't need anything else. And another thing would probably only just make me question other things too. Trying to get that sense of satisfaction and gratitude for the things I have. So it's an important thing just to remember that we lose some excitement on the things over time. We adapt to it. We get comfortable with it. Maybe the first time you opened your DAW, just think of how exciting that was. Or the first time you did anything, it was really exciting, but over time it fades a little bit. It's important to know that that's going to happen, that is part of it. That's part of the experience. And it's part of just the way we were wired psychologically and evolutionarily. And therefore, if you're aware of it, maybe you don't feel the pain of it as much. And you can kind of step back and realize it's happened and then say, you know what? I kind of stopped appreciating this thing and it's actually really incredible. So that was another nice point in that book. And, just want to recommend that. I think it's great. To move on to another point I wanted to make about something that's helped me feel a little gratitude is The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday. Basically, The Daily Stoic is a short read every single day, 365 of them. It gives you some little excerpt from some Stoic philosopher and then a little practical everyday explanation to it. It's like a page long each day, so it's really easy to do. One of the big things that they talk about, one of the themes of Stoicism really, is that challenges should really be welcomed into your life because those are the things that make us stronger. And probably if you've ever gone to a gym to work out, they have posters on the wall saying these exact things to motivate people, no pain, no gain. If it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. And it's so true in the world of exercise. You could be, doing whatever exercise, let's say a bench press, and you're only doing like 5 pounds, and you never up the ante, you're never really going to grow, because your body, just like our mind adapts to things, our bodies adapt to things and get comfortable. And soon that's just too easy for your body, that it won't really change anything. So the big theme in Stoicism is the idea that the challenge is good, the difficulty is good, and it can make difficult times a little more pleasant if you kind of have it in your head that this will improve you, it will challenge you, it will hopefully bring out the best in you. It can be seen as an opportunity to expand your range of capabilities, of things that you can actually handle in life. And it can be a really powerful thought. One of the challenging things that happened in the last year for me was the loss of my martial arts instructor, who passed away from cancer. Healthy person, and just, the disease is awful, terrible, does horrific things to people. One of the great sayings he always had in class was to embrace the suck. Embrace the suck, meaning if it sucks, it's probably working. So he was an amazing martial arts instructor, and also an amazing personal trainer. So there's a lot of fitness in our class, and he loved to, as he would say, show us the abyss. So he would sort of work us to the point where we thought we were going to die, and then work us further. He had just a remarkable ability to know your limits, and proved to us all that where we thought we needed to quit was probably only about halfway through. We could probably still go another 50%, but our minds, convince us that we can't keep going. Our bodies are aching, our minds are suffering. So he would always say, embrace the suck. And if it sucks, then that's good. So you should be happy. And it's a great philosophy, because it's shows that you're growing. It shows that you're challenging yourself. And when you do embrace that suck and you get through it, it's a rush, and nothing better. You've done something you didn't think you can do. How empowering is that? Because now you can do it, and it makes you wonder, what else can I do? What else do I think I can't do, I should say? And maybe I can do that too. So empowering. And I think we can get that through a lot of things we do with music too. If you finish something, if you get through a roadblock, if you are faced with something really difficult, a problem, embrace that, because that's what's going to strengthen you. That's going to make you stronger. That's going to help you get through it. So those are my Thanksgiving thoughts. There's a lot to be thankful for. There's a lot that has gone right. If you're, like I said, if you're listening to this show, a lot has probably gone right in your life. The fact that I get to sit here and do this show and have people listen and talk to people and meet new people is such an incredible privilege and luxury. It's hard to imagine what our ancestors would have thought. People that struggled for their own survival every single day, to see us now in the comforts we have, dealing with the problems we have now, zooming around the highways, getting frustrated when someone cuts you off. It would be laughable to them. You're mad about that? The horrors I've seen, in years and years, in generations ago, we do have it, I think, on the whole, really well this day and age. And it's not to say the world is perfect and there isn't suffering. And even if you are a person in relatively good standings listening to this show, I'm sure your suffering is real and your pain is real. Everyone's pain is real to them, despite it doesn't matter what it looks like compared to other people. But I think we can maybe remember that a little bit and help that get us through some of the challenges. And if you're getting upset about your music, maybe pull back a little, look at the big picture. It's kind of a silly thing to get upset about, isn't it? You're making little sounds to come out of your computer and putting them together to make little songs. It's a it's a beautiful thing. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, I wouldn't be talking about it so much all these years and doing it, dedicating so much of my life to it, but it is a small thing, and try not to let it become a big, frustrating thing. Of course, easier said than done. As I started out with this show, I found myself in a real fit of anger trying to figure out why my compressor was buzzing too much. Small potatoes, especially considering I have a dozen other compressors in the computer that I don't even have to wire up and worry about little buzzes for. But for whatever reason, I feel it necessary to add something else in. I don't know why. Paradox of choice. Is it making me more happy? I don't know. But I want to thank you for listening. I really do appreciate it. I feel very lucky to have this show and have listeners and have people that get something out of it and have people that reach out and share their own experiences with me. And it's a feedback loop where I learn something from them too. Really is a cool thing. So thank you very much and enjoy this day.